So I got this 2024 GLS63 in for a couple upgrades. He wants it sitting a little lower and to squeeze some more power out of it and getting it sounding a little better. So we're gonna do some exhaust work. And the blow-off valves up top, removing those, and got Brabus bypass ports to put on it. And then also to lower it a bit. It's lowered a little bit as is, but he said he wants to squeeze out as much as he possibly can with it still being drivable and functional and the tire not scraping onto anything. So I'm gonna see how much more height I can get out of it. But right now I'm just gonna look everything over. I fully expect everything to be perfect. There's like, I don't know, 2,000 miles on this thing. It's the 2024. But just gonna look it all over first like I do on every car. Okay. With it being new, these grommets haven't had time to tear, but they always do. Obviously nothing really, just looking at all the stuff I normally look at, except just not expecting stuff. None of the wearable items I take too close a look. Like, I'll glance over the brakes, but obviously, like, unless you have a seized caliper or something, obviously the brakes aren't gonna be worn out. The coolant's oddly a little low. I'll top that off. Sometimes they do come underfilled from the factory, or on factory assembly, they just vacuum these things down for a couple seconds and just fill it in. It's not that it's dangerously low, it's just not at the max. So I'll top that off a bit. Nothing really. The 2020, starting in 2024, maybe in 2023, they started having this integrated fire suppression system in the engine bay, and that's what you'll see the stainless steel hose for. You have a tank of extinguishing agent right up here. It's pumped into the SRS system, so if it detects a front end collision that meets whatever parameters it is, it purges that out into two ports that I believe go over the turbochargers. They do. You can see one from right here. You can really see it once I get the heat shield on. So that being the hottest part of the engine, it just kind of purges that out. And the engine bay is relatively sealed with all this stuff. So the theory is it's supposed to displace all the oxygen in the engine bay and suffocate any fire or anything. So make sure that's all okay, obviously, and mount it up. I'm just seeing what I can see from the side here. Obviously nothing wrong at all. Everything's clipped in properly. Oh, that's not. This reservoir's loose. You see stuff like this time from factory assembly, but it's just supposed to snap into the grommets here. Okay, that's good. You can see that's seated flush. I see the one down there is flush. So that's good. And then with it being its first inspection, just make sure like the wiring harness is routed correctly. Everything's clipped into place right, like this guy here that goes in the air boxes. It's not pushed on all the way. Just little stuff like that, anything I can see that may result in a problem later on. Sometimes the wiring harness can be routed around like this, a metal clip or something, and over time, that's gonna vibrate through the insulation and cause electrical issue. Anything like that is what I check over on. Or when I used to do the pre-delivery inspections, like right off the truck from the assembly factory, that's the kind of stuff I would always look for. Okay, now under the car, I went ahead and took off the under shields because I'm gonna have to take them off anyways. So that's always a bonus whenever the car's in for an actual job anyways. You can take off the under shields and see the whole underside of the engine and everything. Obviously nothing's gonna be wrong under here. Just kind of glance over, make sure there's no damages or fluid linking from the factory or whatever. Tire tread and brakes, obviously. This has got the electro-hydraulic adjustable sway bar. So you've got this giant motor device that stiffens or softens the sway bar depending on what driving mode you're in. All good here. Head tires. Air struts. Nothing leaking from the engine. This one does have, it's a mild hybrid, so it has the integrated starter inside the bell housing. There's no actual starter motor on this one. So that's all good. Okay, so looking over these trans-cooler lines, they're a bit wet. I don't know what design flaw there is in these once I went to this system, but I've changed several of these in the dealership when they were brand new. Like it would come in for its first service, and you'd see these are kind of moist. I mean, it's not dripping off, obviously. It's not even beginning to form a leak. But you can see that clearly it's misting out, like it's sweating fluid. Here, and these fittings up there as well. You can see just like a tiny bit of moisture, which is transmission fluid. But it's seriously not that bad at all. I don't know what it would equivalent to. I've never let it get that bad because with it being brand new, everything's under warranty. So I would just simply schedule a time for the customer to come back and then replace this for free for him. But it's just something to note. And the exhaust. All these new transfer cases, I guess they hired a 7-year-old in the factory to seal these things together because every single one of them looks like this. So if you ever see one and you're like, oh, someone's been in this before, or whenever this car's 20 years old or something and you go to look up under it, you're going to say, oh, someone's definitely been in this transfer case before. Like, that's not factory. You would never convince someone this isn't factory, but it is. I don't know what it is about them or if they set it down on something immediately after it gets stuck together. Every one of the transfer cases that come out looks like they've been sealed together by a 7-year-old. So that's normal. Of course, none of this stuff is bad. Trans mounts. Look how soft that transmission mount is. Look how much it moves right here.
Wow.
That's just with my arm pressure. I don't weigh but 300 some pounds, but I mean, relative to how heavy the transmission is and stuff, that's a good bit of flex. That's good. Good soft luxury motor mounts or transmission mounts. And the motor mounts are electronic in this car, so they can vary the stiffness depending on your driving mode as well. In the back here, everything looks fine. Get a view of the suspension. The shock's obviously not leaking. None of the suspension's gonna be worn out. The axle boots aren't slinging grease or anything. The brake fluid line is fine. Tire tread obviously is good. Brakes are obviously good. And the other side, same stuff. Shocks are good, nothing's out of place. Brake pad, brake line's not leaking. Tire tread and brakes, yeah, everything's fine on this car, as expected. Nothing wrong at all.